almost didn't take the first step. Doubt whispered, "You're not ready." The trees ahead loomed like ancient sentinels, the forest path winding into shadow. Their heart pounded, not from exertion, but from the weight of what if. Every fear they'd buried seemed to rise at once. But still, they stood there, on the edge, thinking. But then something deeper stirred, faint but firm. It didn't roar, it whispered back, "Go anyway." A breath was drawn, not for courage, but for choice. They stepped forward. The sound of their foot touching earth felt louder than it should have. It echoed like a promise. "I will keep going, even through the fog." With each step, the woods didn't get easier. They got deeper, stranger. But the farther they went, the clearer their thoughts became. The noise of doubt faded behind them, replaced by the quiet rhythm of footsteps and breath. It was as if the journey was tuning them softly, slowly, into who they really were. They found a clearing, filled with golden flowers that swayed without wind. They paused, and for the first time, looked back not in regret, but in awe. The path wasn't behind them anymore. It was beneath them. Every step they doubted had become a step they owned. And that changed everything. In that clearing, they sat, not to rest, but to reflect. They opened the journal, the one they hadn't dared to write in. Now, it wasn't empty. Thoughts flowed like the river they could now hear nearby, and for the first time in a long time, their hand didn't tremble. It moved with purpose. Further down the path, trees arched overhead like a cathedral. Light filtered through stained glass leaves in shades of green and gold. They walked slower here, not out of tiredness, but reverence. They weren't afraid now. The journey had become sacred. They came across a fallen tree, split by lightning long ago. It lay like a bridge across a small ravine. A part of them wanted to turn back, but another part remembered the clearing, the feeling of rising. They stepped onto the trunk, with arms outstretched, balancing between who they were and who they were becoming. Across the ravine, the path curved uphill. The climb was steep, and every muscle protested. But the view began to open behind them. For the first time, they saw how far they'd come, not just in distance, but in truth. Their doubts hadn't disappeared. They'd simply stopped obeying them. At the top of the hill stood an ancient stone arch, half swallowed by ivy. No signs, no instructions, just presence. They walked through it instinctively, as if passing into a new chapter, and with it, they left behind the person who was too afraid to try. On the other side, the forest changed. The trees were wider apart, the air warmer. A sense of peace hung everywhere, like the forest was exhaling. They took off their shoes and let their feet feel the earth. Each step now was a whisper of connection, not a battle of will. There was no map, no milestones, just moments. Moments where doubt still appeared, but passed, like a cloud over sunlight. They had learned that doubt doesn't mean stop. It means you're standing at the edge of something important. They didn't rush anymore. Every step was chosen, not chased. They had become part of the forest's rhythm. The journal in their hand wasn't for proof or achievement. It was a record of becoming, of listening, of moving forward even when unsure. They reached a high ridge at sunset. The forest fell away below like a green ocean. And for the first time in the entire journey, they cried. Not because they were lost or afraid, but because they weren't, because they had walked through everything that said they couldn't and kept going. They stayed there until stars arrived, until the forest turned to whispers and silver. And as they sat under the open sky, they realized the voice that doubted them never left. But they had learned to listen beyond it, to the quieter voice that always believed. And in that silence, under moonlight and memory, they finally understood doubt isn't a wall. It's a doorway, and they had walked through it.